going on, DGen Nation? Kenny Kim here, bringing you another Fantasy Golf Degenerates podcast this week for the Genesis Scottish Open. As usual, I'm here with everybody's favorite Canadian, Tyler Tamboline. Tyler, what is up, my friend? I missed you last week.
Hey, you must have had a good week off. You came in with the cleanest intro we've had in quite some time with you. You got it all perfect. You had the Genesis in there with the Scottish Open. It's going to be a good show. Excited. We're going to talk through quickly the John Deere Classic. Mr. Sepp Straka getting the W, even with a double bogey on the last hole. But before we get into it, want to remind everyone very quickly, this show is brought to you and presented by PrizePicks. Head on over to prizepicks.com. Use promo code MMN. If you haven't done so yet, you get yourself a 100% deposit bonus up to your first $100. Kenny, we missed you last week. Shout out to our resident fill-in, Ryan Baroff, came through with the heat last week. He had William Cowcat, Wow. He had him going last week. He had a bunch of good plays on the show last week. A good week overall. How was your week? I know you were riding on Adam Schenk. Got the job done for you down the stretch with the bogey free, at least. But talk to us about your week, man. How was the week off?
I was good. I needed it. Last weekend on July 4th, I partied hard as shit that weekend, like harder than I have in like months. I haven't been drinking that much for the last year. And so, yeah, that weekend I crushed like a handle of a half-gallon Crown Royal by myself. It was a crazy weekend. I had a 4-day weekend, so I was like, I'll just go crazy. I'll be fine by the time the pod comes around. I woke up Monday morning. I was like, nope. I ain't doing shit but sleeping all day. I didn't do anything. I was like, I hit a barrel for the barrel, please.
Yeah, he was good. He's always good.
Yeah.
It was good to have him back.
So it worked out. You know, sometimes you need a week off. You know, I take 3 weeks off a year. We still do 40 pods out here, so we still get our work done. But for the event itself, I mean, I really didn't even watch that much. I didn't pay too much attention. Played a lot less than I normally did since I wasn't on the podcast. I still did my stuff for Gup's Corner. Made 3 or 4 for the Cash Cube Cornerstones. Of course, Dylan Wu freaking missed the cut on the number, which is how it's been going for me. Like, I have one guy that misses the cut like on the number, and then it's just like a humongous sweat, like every week in cash now. Because you miss like one guy, just sweat, you know. And so luckily I needed the all under 70 bonus for Schenk, and then he had like a couple of birdies on the back, like the last few holes to help me out in cash. So it worked out for a winning week. I held on barely by the skin of my teeth. But the event itself, I mean, I watched Sunday. And you know, I saw Giuseppe do his thing, you know, going out there, and he said he wasn't trying to go for 59. Maybe he wasn't. If he wasn't going for 59, I don't know what the hell he was doing on 18, because that's just an idiotic shot. Now, granted, that is his ball shape, and maybe he just yanked it just a little bit. But I mean, I missed by missed by a lot. It didn't even land on land. It landed directly in that water, and I was like, oh, well, shit, we got some chances because I had a lot of Smalley too. But you know, Brendan Todd and Smalley just couldn't get it done. Todd bogeyed 16, and that was basically it after that. And he didn't bogey 17. Neither one of them birdied 17, if I remember correctly, which was like the easiest hole in the course, and it was basically over. After that, Giuseppe didn't have to worry too much about it, even though he was on the range gearing up. What'd you think about the event? How'd you do?
Yeah, that last part that you mentioned was key with Straka. I think it really was that, though, because even, 59 was on the line, but he knows if he just hits the center of the green, tournament's over. It ended up still being his by 2 strokes, and without even, with going in the water, with all that. So probably a lot of nerves racking up there. He's had his fair share of, at the Honda, didn't have to deal with that. He kind of got it the other way, but in this one, had to just grind it out. And so many guys, I'm glad you brought that part up, because it is the key on these weeks, and they're the highest variance weeks where you're having these. And I was sweating my guy, shout out my guy, TYA, Todd. Got through to the round 3, the live final portion of the Fantasy Golf World Championship, and sweating down the stretch with him and a couple others, my guy Haggy B and some others in the Discord over at Ship It Nation. Like, the main thing was, Kenny, everyone was losing that bonus. Some guys had already lost it on Saturday, but on Sunday, Chris Kirk was a guy everybody needed. He had he hit it up the hill. I was like, how does it go to 2 feet? What happened was, though, he was short side, up the hill, back down to 2 feet. The next shot, 11 inches. I said, what the hell? He did it again. He ended up missing the all 4 under 70 by 1 or 2 strokes. With that happening, he bogeyed the last. Like, crazy stuff to have that happen. McCarthy was the other one. Denny McCarthy needed birdie on the last, puts it to 16 feet, does not get it. Schenk puts it to 11 feet on the last hole, does not get it. Now, that was big because that was for the streak on the day. That was for the 3 in a row. it was for the he was already getting all 4 under 70, but it was also something else, the birdie points itself. So it was like
Yeah.
a lot of points for anyone on the bubble of the Fantasy Golf World Championship. So it was a great sweat on Sunday with some friends, the people that are going to be down there in Minneapolis at the 3M Open. So that was awesome to see. But just in general, not the
Are
best.
you going?
I'm going.
Are you going?
Yeah, I'm
Nice.
going.
So you got a lineup in there?
I do not have a lineup for myself. No, I'm
That
always
sucks.
a bridesmaid, Kenny. If you don't make it, you have to
Yeah.
have friends that do. That's
Yeah.
the trick. But wiggled my way into it, so that's good. So I'm excited to be down there, and if anybody's down there, I'll see you there. But a couple more quick notes because you mentioned it. But Aberg dropped the hammer on Sunday. That was the other thing. The guys in the morning that went out Sunday, round 4 showdown, and just in general, guys like Jaeger, Power. Who were some of the others? I think Glover went out a little bit earlier. Grayson Murray, Aberg, and then Straka. Those were the guys that posted the low rounds. After that, everyone was like -2, -3, maybe a little bit, maybe -4, something like that. But for the most part, it was all the guys that went out early that posted the low rounds. That's how Straka got the job done. So shout out to him. But other than that, not too much crazy about this event. Dwayne Bach on his bag.
I know.
Usually on Kisner's bag. And it just said they kind of got along good and made their way.
Kisner's taking a break from what I heard. I mean, probably because he sucks balls. But it's probably why he's taking. But I was looking back at my best GPP lineup and look at his lineup. I had Cam Young, who finished 6th, Shank, who finished 4th, Smalley, who finished 2nd, Glover, who finished 6th, Grayson Murray, who finished 6th, and then Chesson Hadley missed the cut.
Oh, okay.
And I hate life.
See,
basically is what it comes down to.
For that reason, because you could go find that he could be like Hardy, who even though he didn't do enough, or maybe $100, he could have been Quest or something. It's not like it would have been all that. What I thought you were gonna say, because that's painful. We've all been there, the 5 or 6 kings. It sucks when that happens. But what I noticed, and this is the other thing with the variance factor, just to bring in a strategy which we'll use for this week, not so much for the Scottish Open, but just talking strategy as we always do, and then for the future weeks where we see these birdie fests. Isn't it crazy? Like there was lineups out there that were still 50 points off first with like 3 guys in the top 10 and 3 guys in the top 20, your top T13, T17 range, because if you didn't have Straka, it's all over. And that's every tournament. Everyone's saying, oh, you need the winner. Of course, I'm just saying like this, the separation in points. You could have a guy with like 97 points and feel good. Straka has that. It was no different than Henley a few weeks ago when he has 98, but Keegan has 140 something. That's the separator that you need. That's why sometimes those guys up there, you got to have them. You got to have them. I
can't remember the last time I had 5 golfers in the top 6.
Yeah.
In a GPP. And I finished 1,312. I know. That lineup finished 1,312. At one point in time, I think on this lineup on Thursday and Friday was like top 10 in GPPs. I think at one point it was number 1 on Friday at some point, and of course that always happens.
A lot of guys always have the cut too, though. Your guy you talked about, but there was Carson Young. There was who's the other? Patrick Rogers missed it closer, had a chance down the stretch. There was definitely other guys, but one last one I just thought of. Actually, I was going to bring up Bornson, Muau, who's the other one? Aberg and Quest again, all in the top 20. Like the young guys, doesn't matter. I know it's a birdie fest and whatever, but
Cam Young showing a little life. Cam Young showing a little bit of life,
except for the back 9 on Sunday.
Did double. I mean, I think on the front 9 he was like 5 under and a stroke back for the day because he was playing with Straka. Now that wasn't the only thing that happened this past week. Of course, we had the Women's U.S. Open, which is a great watch. I mean, Pebble Beach for women, it seems like it's better than it is for men. Just because they're not bombing it out there. It was like the perfect course setup. It was a beautiful course. I really enjoyed watching the women. I forget the lady's name. Corpus, that's it. She actually went to the same high school as Michelle Wie.
Crazy.
And this was Michelle Wie's final U.S. Open. Barack Obama went there as well to that same high school. She was the youngest to win the U.S. Pub Links and since Michelle Wie. There's some crazy shit going on in the U.S. For the Women's U.S. Open. Really fun watch. Primetime golf. You had to love it. And then, of course, the Live controversy with Matt Wolff and Brooks Koepka. I did want to talk about that just a little bit before we move on. And I know nowadays the whole mental health being important. It's important. I understand it. Growing up, if you're fucked up in the head, you just fucking deal with it and you go on. But that just doesn't fly anymore nowadays. The reasons why, who knows? That's, I mean, it's like a big deal now, and you have to get through it. And you have to walk around eggshells sometimes when it comes into this type of topic. Okay. Now Matt Wolf, of course, his situation where Koepka just went off on him about how he's not giving effort. It's not saying he sucks. It says he wasn't giving effort. Huge difference right there. Huge difference. If he's not giving the effort, and it's a team sport, that's not good. Now, the thing about it is, like, people saying, he shouldn't have called him out. I mean, Kobe did that shit on a daily basis. You know what I'm saying? Kobe would call out his teammates every day. You know what I'm saying? You didn't hear shit about this. And again, I know people don't think LIV is like a team sport, but technically it is a team event. Okay. My take on this is, if you really are struggling mentally and you are playing a team sport, you should just leave. You should just not play until you get your mind right, because you're not only hurting yourself, you're hurting your teammates. So looking back on the Summer Olympics, Simone Biles, her basically quitting because she wasn't right in the head. At that moment in time, I thought it was horrible. But the more I think about it, like, obviously this mental health issue is a real thing. People have issues. People have problems. If you're having these problems and it's affecting your game and you play a team sport, you should just leave. You should just stop playing and maybe come back later. Now, in Matt Wolf's situation, it's a little bit different because he took the bag. So can he take a leave of absence for mental health? Maybe not. Does he have to give the money back? It's a weird situation here. But we're going to see this more and more with team sports, with the team aspect becoming a part of professional golf, because that's what's going to happen. At bare minimum, with this merger, if it goes through, we're going to see more team golf. And I just think it brings a really cool little niche. I have no problem with what Brooks Koepka gear. Here's another thing about it. Someone leaked that Koepka had too much of a strong workout one morning a few months ago. Obviously, who leaked it? It had to have been Matt Wolf. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it had to have been Matt Wolf. No one else on the team is going to leak it. Chase ain't going to leak it. Koepka's not going to talk shit. Koepka Kokrak's not going to leak it. Brooks is not going to leak it. It had to have been Matt Wolf who leaked it. So in Koepka's eyes, he's already talking to the press about problems that have happened in the team, and he was the first one to open his mouth to the press. Koepka was just doing his thing as a team captain and was going off on this guy who obviously, released, sensitive information to the press. He didn't have to. It was obviously Matt Wolf who did that. And so that's why I give Koepka a break. I mean, kudos to him. If a guy is fucking your team up, fucking your bag up, we've seen it in other team sports. Just because it's golf and there's been a tradition of gentlemanness doesn't mean that does not apply to team sports. You've seen in Ryder Cups people go off. You've seen Seve want to fight people. You've seen the Americans talk shit about their coach. You've seen other players talk shit about people on their team, Patrick Reed. When it comes to team competition, this is not new. This is not the first time this shit has happened in golf, And so I don't have a problem with team captains, especially if this is going to be a bigger part of the professional game. I mean, yeah, you try and do it in-house, and I'm sure he did, because he's been having these issues. They've been talking about this, for about 2-3 months, and Koepka just finally had it. He's like, done. This guy's not giving the effort. He's coming in last place. He's not giving a shit. You know what I'm saying? This is a team competition. I'm going to call his ass out. I got no problem with that. Now, the issue for Matt Wolf is, if he's really that fucked up in the head and he's having these issues, he should not be playing the sport at this moment in time, especially if it's a team game. If you're a tennis player or if you're playing on the PGA Tour and there's no teams, go ahead. If you're having fucking mental issues, but it's only you that's being affected, go out and play. No problem. Ain't no one going to say shit. But once it becomes a team atmosphere, that changes. And I don't care if we're supposed to tiptoe around this topic for mental health. When it comes to team sports, if you're having an issue and your production is down because mentally you're not in the right place, you need to get off the fucking team. You need to get off the fucking team. Plain and simple. What Simone Biles did, I respect now. After a couple of years and trying to, going through this, I respect what she did. She knew that if she went out there, she would fuck up. She didn't want to fuck up the team, so she took the leave of absence. And she hasn't been back since recently. She just got back recently. Now she wants to make the Olympics again for the next time. And again, I understand the Matt Wolff situation. It's in live. But, I mean, this is not going to be the only time we hear about this. Now that the team sport, that golf is going to a team aspect, professional golf. So we're going to gear up for it because it's going to happen. There's going to be some egos hurt. And I'm sort of for it. What did you think about it?
Yeah, I think it's tough to comment because usually I'm super opinionated, and not that I don't agree with you or agree or disagree. It's not about that as much as just saying it. Like, the part that we don't know is the part that you said that makes the most sense to me. Is like you said, if you're not in the right space mentally and you want to step away because you believe where you're at right now is going to affect the team and you don't want to do that, you should step away. I think that's the right thing to do. But I don't know if there's a possibility for that here, because if you think about how this played out outside of what just happened in this past week and us just being degenerates and following it, as our title states, is he did step. I mean, it looks like he did try and step away or quit. And quitting's different than stepping away. But if he just says, look, I'm not in the right space, I had enough. We don't know the truth here. They scrubbed him from the Twitter. They took him off the thing. Like, he was out. That's where this thing sparked from. He obviously went the extra steps. Like I said, if it was him, and you kind of assume based on the way the article plays out, is that he leaked the video himself saying, well, this is the type of shit I had to put up with, in different terms, saying like, hey, I didn't do that, but this is what happened. And so there's a situation where he's not happy with it. And that's where Koepka comes from, saying, look, buddy, if you didn't like the workouts too fucking bad, step back in the ring, either play with us or get out. But then who knows what the powers above.
But maybe he can't get out. That's the issue.
That's what I'm saying, is like, listen.
And that's why it's such a weird, weird, delicate situation. Yeah.
It's different than the other situation, because the other thing about Simone, and again, not to bring it but to full circle, is just say, like, obviously she had to take on definitely going through some stuff mentally, and then having a whole country come down on her, double down. She knew that was coming. So whoever said, I agree with you, it's a good idea to step away, you have to deal with the ultimate backlash of it being for the United States of America in the Olympics, for medals, everything that goes with that. No one really gives a shit about live for the most part. We're making fun of it and talking about, we do, like, we watch it. We'll pay attention to the names for a while. I'm just saying. Cam
Smith wins again, 16-1 Open Championship.
Correct. And that's funny that's not even part of the conversation right before the Open. We're talking about this, and it's true because it's the drama that goes with it. And you just wonder what really goes on behind the scenes, but something caused Matt Wolff to be out and now back in, and you can't sit back comfortably and say, well, they must have sorted out. Clearly they fucking didn't. When Brooks is going on saying that, nothing got sorted out. Someone either said, too bad Brooks, he's going back in, or too bad Matt, if you want your next paycheck, you better step back in the ring and you guys figure it out. And then Brooks is like, well, that don't work for me, so I'm going to try a different method. And different, that makes sense to me on how it played out, because he was like, well, if that don't work, then I'm doing this instead. And he just comes out.
Because, I mean, and of course, Matt Wolff finished dead last this past week again.
He was on the range, the last man off the range, the first man on the range, same result. But
still finished dead last.
He was putting the work in, he says.
Yeah, I guess. So that was just my take on that. I just, and we're going to see more of that. If the team competition becomes a big part of professional golf, you're going to see people talking shit all the time. It's going to add another layer of content to golf, which I'm going to enjoy thoroughly. It should be fun. We'll see how it plays out. All right. So and anything else before we move on, Tambo?
No, all good, man. Just quick note, because we're going to the Listener League. Did not fill last week. Begged and pleaded. We're on the outs. We'll see, but we're trying to get back in on this 2,500 person, the Open. Have to fill this week and fill it fast. So please, asking a favor again, help me, help you. It's the same. When we get the bigger tournament, it's better for everyone. It's the same reduced rate. It's the same awesome payout structure. It's more money for the prizes. It's a way to get your bankroll in good and have a shot. So all we're saying is go to my Twitter right now, or on the Fantasy Golf Degenerates Twitter. Kenny's retweeted on any of our Twitters. Find the link, pause this show, video, podcast, whatever. Go jump in, get your 3 entries in for $15, $5 3 max. Fill this week's fast. It's already filling faster than last week, so hopefully we fill this one out. It was just a John Deere thing. They did not overlay last week. That's my argument, Kenny. So you didn't lose any money on our deal last week. We missed it by, I think it was 57 spots or something. So either way, fill this week, and I think we still get 2,500 for next week. But let's fill this week for starters. Go ahead.
All right, that sounds good. The Listener League winner was Rockwell2307 with a baboon making a phone call. as his avatar. He went ahead and had started his lineup with Denny McCarthy, 20% owned. Alex Smalley, 13% owned. Of course, Denny finished in 6th. Smalley finished runner-up. He had Hubba Hubbard, 13% owned, finished in 6th. Ches Reavie, 25% owned, finished in 35th. Brendan Todd, of course, runner-up, 5% owned. And Nate Lashley, 5% owned, finished in 21st. Tambo, what you think of the lineup?
Yeah, I was just going to try and see real quick. This is like a prime example, though, of what I was talking about, Kenny. So he puts up 623. He crushes our field, like 609, 590. Like everyone did good here. Everyone put up almost 600 points, but he still does it by almost 25 points. And the winner of the $20, look how good this lineup is. You have T2, T2, T6, T6, T21, and Ches Reavie, your worst guy who put up 85 points, basically 84 and a half. The winner of the $20 had 702. Like, you just obviously know Straka, so I get it. And that's one thing. I don't think Straka was very heavily owned, at least in this. He was 6%. I think it was 8% on the main. He fit in that price zone at 8,600 that most were either going above in the 9Ks or up, or just skipping over to the bottom 8K. They either had Jagger or Smalley above him, or they had the guys at the bottom in Rogers or Nick Taylor. I remember the pricing from last week, but just in general, it's just the craziest thing. That 141 just makes such a difference because no one in his lineup was over Brendan Todd's 120, 118 for Smalley. Overall, great build. You look at it, it's a 10, 8, and then all 7s. Went lower in the 7s to the leverage plays in Todd and Lashley off of the chalk that was all at 7,300 to 7,500. So you got one underneath in Lashley, one above in Todd. It allowed him to still get Reavie and Denny in there. And Denny was owned, but you still had Henley and Cam Young and guys like that get love up top. So biggest takeaway, awesome job to Rockwell 2007. Already got him in the Tournament of Champions. We'll see him in the 3-man this week. Congrats to Rockwell. But biggest takeaway, Kenny, just looking at it, ownership really spread out. The construction is what matters most, right? Like, you got to find a way to get a little bit unique. Not a single 9K guy, not a single 6K guy, and skip the hub of $7,300 for Hadley, for Callum Tarrant, for Carson Young, for all the guys in that $7,300 to $7,500 range. Just skipped it. Above and below, it allowed him to still play a chalk Reavie and good lineup construction overall. So shout out to Rockwell 2307.
Sounds good. Let's get to this week. The PGA Tour, in conjunction with the DP World Tour, head across the pond for the Scottish Open played from the Renaissance Club. This event has been played at the Renaissance Club the last 4 years, but this is only the second time it has been co-sanctioned by the PGA and the DP World Tour. Last year, of course, was the first. In the 4 previous iterations of this event, scoring has been weather dependent. Wiesberger and Minwoo Lee won here in good weather conditions with a score of -22 and -18 respectively. Aaron Rai defeated Fleetwood in a playoff here during windy and cold conditions with a score of -11. Last year, Xander won a -7 with a wind-swept weekend, extremely fast and firm conditions. As with many links-type courses, the weather is the main defense of the course, and it doesn't look horrible this week. It's Monday, so take it with a grain of salt, but it looks like 30 to 35 mile per hour gusts just on Sunday, maybe 20 mile per hour gusts and a bit of rain on the other 3 days. Now, the rains were probably a big deal. It's going to make the course play a lot softer. It should make the course play a lot softer. We'll see. And I think, driving distance has been a little bit of a tell here in the last couple of years. There's been some good people, top finishers who just pound the ball out there. I think it's going to be even a little bit more important this year if you're not going to get that rollout that you got here last year. Now, when it comes to comp courses for PGA Tour players, you can look at past Open Championships, maybe the RSM Classic, Honda Classic, which are both seaside courses where wind can play a large factor. For the Euros, looking at the past 4 years here, along with the Open Championship and other events played in Great Britain, Ireland, or Scotland. If you're looking for a correlation event that contained both PGA and Euros on a link style course other than last year here, take a peek at the 2022 Saudi International event at Royal Green. So it was a link style course with a lot of top names that ended up playing that event. Now, the Renaissance Club is a 7,300-yard link style par 70 with 10 par 4s, 5 par 3s, and 3 par 5s. The 3 par 5s, the drivable par 4 fifth, and the 2 short par 3s are the easiest 6 holes on the course, all playing under par. Golfers need to take advantage of these holes throughout the week to be in contention. More than half the par fours range from 450 to 500 yards. And these holes will be difficult. The par 4 18th was actually the hardest hole on tour last year. Playing like 0.6, 0.7 strokes over par. If you have a golfer at or near the cut line on Friday, heading into 18 as his final hole, he's scared. Okay. This is not a true links course. There's only 4 holes play alongside the ocean, but it has all the other components of links style golf. Off the tee, golfers see average size rolling fairways with a fair amount of undulation. These fairways are designed to play firm and fast. We will see. It's supposed to be rainy. We're not going to see it like last year. It was basically concrete out there. It's definitely going to be a lot softer. If golfers just miss the fairway in the rough, it shouldn't be too difficult to play out of, but link style, imagination, and use of the ground game will be needed for some approaches out of the rough. The farther a golfer misses the fairway by, the more penal the rough will be. Golfers will love the rough compared to the deep fairway pot bunkers. Get too close to the edge of these, and then golfers will have to pitch out sideways. Unlike true links courses, there are a few trees to deal with if golfers miss wildly off the tee, and wild drives can also find the high fescue in some areas. On approaches, golfers will see large, massively undulating, slow greens. I'd expect them to be very firm with they're usually very, very firm. We'll see how much this rain really affects it. I think the softer the conditions get, the more it's going to favor bombers, and the easier the scoring it's going to be overall. Pot bunkers surround these upside down bowl-shaped greens. There are large runoff areas which will see a lot of play, especially if the wind picks up. These elevated greens will be difficult to get it up and down in, so short game prowess will be necessary to succeed. The grass on the greens is fescue, and I'd expect the Stimpmeter rating to be 10.5 or lower, something maybe even 9.5. We'll see. With the windy conditions, they usually try and keep it low. If it's not going to be as windy, maybe we see 10.5 around there. Now, once again, tricky pot bunkers come into play around the greens. If the weather holds, I'd expect a lot of par putts from 5 to 10 feet this week. And I think, winning score, mid-teens. If it's going to be, not as windy and softer than what we saw last year. Tambo, what are you looking for in golfers?
Mainly what you just talked about, and also the fact that, like you said, we actually can go off something here. So we've got history, we've got the links style course fit that we're going to be looking at. So we'll go through it as we go through all the tiers, but just in general, pricing, pretty soft. Again, Kenny, we'll get to it, but some of the prices on some of these guys, there'll be some decisions to be made. I just guess I'll say it because I talked about it earlier, so I'll bring back the strategy piece. I went early on it today, but we're going to see it spread out again. We're going to know who the guys are that get a little bit more popular than others, but up at the top, you've got Scheffler, Rory, X, Cantlay. People will talk him into always a little bit of him, and we'll go down from there. When you get to the 8Ks, you'll get to the guys that are seemingly too cheap, even though some of them have been horrible, but you have decisions to be made with A-Bird, Justin Thomas, Sungjae Im, Justin Rose, those guys. So ownership's going to be spread out. I think course history and links, whatever you want to call it, links acumen or, links express, where they can go out and get the job done on links courses. That's where people are going to lean to the most. But I don't think we're going to see it as congested as what you might think, Kenny. So I do think we'll talk about it, like Hovland, Hatton, Fleetwood. Those guys will get the love, but there's Spieth, Lowry, Minwoo right underneath them. So there's your next pocket. Go down from there. There's the guys up top. Like it's going to be the same as always. So it's going to come down to more what we talked about with the listener league, where you can break it down and just say, okay, what does the lineup look like that everyone's building, and how can I go about building mine?
All right, let's start off in this 10K range. We have Fitzpatrick all the way up to Scheffler. How are you going about it this week?
Yeah, it's the two at the top, Rory and Scheffler.
Oh, no, Cantlay. I'm sorry, Cantlay going up to Scotty. There's only 4 10K golfers this week. Yeah,
I'm only thinking about the guys at the top, but the one that stands out, again, not as much as you may think, like Cantlay's down there and he came 4th here last year, but so did, Xander, 1st year last year and 10th the year before. We saw Xander show up at Travelers where he had won and then shows up again and gets a top 10 or whatever. Like, this is a guy that just has the complete game always. So he's my, most interesting tournaments. Scotty being the best up top. It's just a matter of what you do with Rory and Cantlay there. So the ones that stand out, Scotty, Xander, and then Rory as well. Who do you like up top?
I'm playing Rory, definitely. He's the one guy I'm going to play up top. The guy's been playing good golf. I mean, there's just nothing to it. I mean, and especially if the conditions are going to be a little bit softer, a little bit rain, a little bit soft. That sounds like Rory to me, pounding out there with the driver. Get your iron play. I really like Rory this week up top. He's going to be my favorite play in the 10K range. Now, I'm thinking about playing Scotty and Xander also. And just going like 30%, maybe 30, 40, 30 or something like that. And starting all three of all my lineups with Scotty, Xander, or Rory. Contemplating it. We'll see. I know for a fact I'm going to play Rory. We'll have to see how the week goes and see who the other ones I do play. But Rory's definitely going to be my favorite here at the 10K. I'm going to have a bunch of them. Moving down to this 9K range, I got two of my cash game cornerstones here. I'm going with the 2 euros down here with Link's experience. Terrell Hatton, 6 DP World Tour wins. Like 4 of them were 3 of them were Rolex Series events. One was the BMW PGA Championship, which is like the flagship tour event. So good fields in those events. He can play around in the links. He's had, I think, a top 20 finish here in the past. He hasn't missed a cut at this event. He's been playing exceptional golf this year. I mean, the way he's been striking the ball, it's been his best year. I think a win is coming. And this seems like perfect for him to get his win. And he so richly deserves after the way he's been playing. He's probably been the best golfer without a win this year. What would you say? Probably?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely up there. It's hard to always qualify it that way, but playing very good. And now a really good opportunity here to get the job done.
Yeah. So I took him at 22-1. He's my headline bet up top. He's my first guy in my cash game cornerstone. I really like Hatton this week. Next is going to be Fleetwood. 2 top 5s here in the last 3 years, including 4th place last year, 4 top 5s in his last 10 events. Or something like that. So the form's there. He plays links golf well. If the wind and the weather picks up, I got no worries with Tommy Fleetwood. So go ahead and give me those 2 to go ahead to start my cash game lineups. My favorite GPP play, probably on the whole board, is going to be Wyndham Clark at $9,000. Again, above him is Fleetwood, Spieth, Lowry, Hatton. Those are going to be popular guys. Below him is going to be Minwoo, who's going to be extremely popular. Rose might be popular. Could he get the squeeze? Could it be 10 to 12%? That's what I'm hoping. I went ahead and took him 40-1, and I think he's gonna be my highest owned golfer. I'm gonna put him at 45%, almost 50% this week in my lineups. I mean, the iron game is strong. He crushes the ball off the tee, top 20 around the green in this field. I mean, what more do you fucking want? Give me Wyndham Clark. He knows how to go. Obviously, he knows how to play against the big boys. That shit don't faze him after winning that US Open. Give me Wyndham Clark. Favorite play on the board. Favorite bet on the board. 4-1.
Okay,
perfect. 9K.
Perfect time here. So I'm going to step in because this is a great learning experience. I think someone newer to DFS or watching this and trying to figure out strategy and ownership and all these things. So everything you just said, Kenny. The 10 to 12% when you mentioned it, if you hear the spark in Kenny's voice, you're just hoping that you're hoping he's lower owned.
I'm hoping
but you love the play. I'm not calling you out. I'm siding with you here. You love the play, favorite play, favorite bet, favorite everything you said. Taking 45%. So what if things flip and he comes in at 20% and the guys around him, the Minwoos are 15 and the guys above him, get 12 to 15. That's the whole point. What we try and explain to everybody, it's not about who you play. It's how you play them. In a vacuum, someone will still tell you, well, I want the guy that's lower owned in a matchup against him if you give me those odds. I get it. I'm saying you still have to fill out your lineup with 5 other plays, and Kenny's not really picking him just because he thinks he's going to be low owned. That's an added bonus benefit or excitement piece to him if he can get him at that. But he loves him. And 45%, guess what? It's going to get the job done regardless if he shows up at 12, 15, or 20. You're still in gear and way overweight. So I think that's one thing people definitely have to take away from, because I get it all the time in the Ship It Nation Discord where someone will say, oh, man, I liked him. I thought he was going to be 12%, and then he came in at 18. Did you like him or did you like the ownership? And it can be both. I'm not calling everybody out. I'm just saying.
And it could be just the ownership sometimes. I mean,
sometimes it's the other way. But when you're looking at it like that, it sounds like, at least that's what I'm trying to call out here, is it doesn't look like you'll be very mad if he comes in at 18 to 20 by Wednesday night when you were hoping he came in at 10 to 12. That's where people get confused. If you love that play, commit to that play. And that's just the added benefit of what's around him and all the other stuff. I think that's one thing people need to take away. One thing quick before I go my 9K range, because we have similar thoughts there. What I forgot to ask you up top is I see it, and it includes this range, Kenny, but 9K and up, it looks very strong compared to the drop-off of the 8Ks. But then I can see where there's upper 6K guys and lower 7K guys that are almost the same as the upper 7K guys, bar the 1 to 2 guys I think people are going to mention, like Aaron Rye, Lucas Herbert, those types of guys for sure, with Link's prowess is the word I was looking for earlier, and the fact that Rye won here and Herbert's been close and in the mix a bunch of times. But do you think there's a play here just to play 2 or 3 of these guys above 9K and just skip everybody in that 75 to 8,900 range? Or, what's your thoughts on roster construction that way?
I mean, that would work. I mean, the thing is, having as many guys as possible over 9K is not the worst way to go about it. I mean, shit, go Wyndham, Clark, Fleetwood, and Fowler. I mean, you still got plenty of cash.
Yeah.
To go ahead and do your thing. You know what I'm saying? I do not hate that at all.
Yeah. So twofold, I would say that is a thought. The other thought is the guys up top get a little bit held in check, Kenny. Again, they won't fully, because you can still go with Scotty or Rory and then hop down to this 9K range and get a guy, just like people did last week, just like people did the week before with Ricky, and then drop down and to Sung Jae. Last week, people were doing it with one of Cam Young, Henley, or McCarthy dropping down into that 9K range. So it's fine. I'm just saying, I think there's something to be said for just playing 2 of these guys up top and then dropping down from there. The other alternate way is to take like a Scotty or a Rory and then drop into this 8K range. We'll get to in a minute. But as far as the 9K goes, I think Fitzy, interesting tournament flyer, because I don't think people want to pay that price. Not when you can just go up a little bit and get Xander at 10-4, or people always get sold on Cantlay, by the way. So that's going to happen too. And I don't hate it. Obviously, Cantlay plays incredible, but that's my argument. If you want to play guys up top, just get different down low and in your overall roster construction. But Hatton, Fleetwood should be popular. Fowler has been playing incredible golf, has Link's prowess himself, won a Scottish Open back in the day, 2015. Always plays good over here. So, and now he's playing good again. So feeling pretty good coming in. And then I think Spieth, Lowry get the love as well. So like you said, all these guys should get a little bit of ownership. I like your Clark call. I think Spieth is always interesting at these creative type courses. Obviously himself, not so bad 10th here last year at this course. And then Hatton, Fleetwood is going to be extremely popular. So single entry, maybe look to get a little bit different in that range. And those two, maybe people will start with them and build their balance lineups that way. Something Mayo and myself will look at on the Wednesday show in studio. But I do think it's interesting that, you could just build with 2 guys up above completely and skip this range too. So those are the guys I like, but I definitely think there's some roster construction thoughts here to be had.
Go to the 8K range. My third cash game cornerstone. This one's sort of a little bit out there. I like Max Homa at $8,800. Again, you play Homa at Homa courses. I know he's only played here once, but he finished 16th last year, so he has some liking to the course. There is some chatter about how this plays similar to LACC. Similar, and of course he has experience at LACC. Gained 5 strokes with his approaches, 8 strokes tee to green the last time out. He played again one of the best par 3 guys out there. There's 5 of them this week. So I really, and he's really good on longer par 4s. Like I think there's 5 from 450 to 500 yards, maybe even 6 in that range. He's top 10. In proximity or par 4 efficiency from that range. So I'm a real big Homa fan this week. He's going to be my third cash game cornerstone. Other guys I do like, I'm going to be playing the guys in the bottom. I'm playing JT. I'm going back to the well at this price. I'm not going to bet him, but I think for DraftKings, I'll go ahead and shoot my shot with him, see if he can improve a little bit. He has had success at this course in the past. And I'm going Aberg. I know like people are like hit or miss when it comes to him, but the guy drives the ball so well. Like, and he hits it so, 315, 320, 335 every time. And he's so accurate for the most part, with that drive. Pretty good Sunday showing this past week. The talent's there. So go ahead and I'll play a little bit of Aberg this week. Who do you like in the 8K range?
Yeah, I obviously like that call. The guys continue to show it. So at 8,200, it's a much better price tag too. And I know that the field got increased versus what we've seen him at in like the RBC and then last week and some of these easier birdie fests and stuff. But in general, just, his numbers look pretty solid. He's still got a lot to prove, so I don't hate that. I like Scott, I guess, right below him. If you go look at Adam Scott, he's a guy that you could play here. Nothing at this course, but this form has actually been pretty solid. 5th, 8th, 9th, 19th, miscut to 29th. That's not too bad for him. Stats all look really good across the board. Solid in his last 3 months of play. Really good on those longer par fours that you talked about. So definitely think he's the guy you could go to down at the bottom. I'm with you. JT, even though he's probably going to get steamed, that's where I would, then consider it. Because to me, Kenny, this whole range is almost the same. Like they're as talent-wise and potential for floor upside and volatility and everything. I don't see a lot here. I think Rose is more interesting to me than probably Homa. I like your Homa call out, but I do think Rose is still pretty interesting there. And then I always play Sungjae, but Tom, Sungjae are, both right there. So probably Rose, Aberg, Scott, and then maybe like JT, Im. Like that's kind of where I'm looking at in this range. It stands out. Minwoo, obviously going to be very popular. I think, like you said, it's not, I wouldn't fade him just because of ownership either. I just don't have the same love for him that like you had for Wyndham Clark. Therefore, I don't need to feel the need to be like, I need to jam all of this guy that I need to possibly have versus others are loving him. So I think there's just a lot of other guys in the range that could be the same for less ownership and maybe even better stats on paper and similar stats versus, you go look, Minwoo won here 2 years ago and is playing good right now. So I get it, but
I like Rose as I like Rose as a pivot off Minwoo chalk this week. I'm a fan of that just because I know Pat was talking about it on his show, how he's been over there playing a few events. He should have won the Betfred Masters. He's been there. He knows how to play these link style courses. I'm a fan. He did miss the cut here last year. But I mean, again, the conditions, I'm not really, for cash, I'd like a good showing at this course at some point in time. So, all 4 of my cash game cornerstones this week have had a top 18 or better at this course. That's where I'm going with in cash, but I like Rose for GPPs as a decent pivot off Minwoo. Let's all go ahead and move on to the 7K. I'll go ahead and finish my cash game cornerstones. I'm going with Seaweed Doug Kim again. The guy's just been playing exceptional golf, 5-6 events in a row. His iron game has been fantastic. Above average around the greens, well above average from 200 plus, top 15 in par 3 scoring in this field, top 20 here last year at this event. So go ahead and give me Seaweed Doug as my final cash game cornerstone. So my 4 cornerstones this week are going to be Hatton at 9,600, Fleetwood at 9,400, Homa at 8,800, and Doug Ginn at 7,500. That leaves like 14,700 left. If you want to add somebody else to that cash lineup, I really like Alex Smalley at $7,900. Again, playing excellent golf. Runner up last week, top 10 here at this event last year, and that was with pretty strong ass field. Iron game has been really strong. He's been top 20 in strokes gained tee to green in this field in the last 50 rounds. That's saying something with all these names in this field. So I like Smalley a lot here in the upper 7K range. Who do you like in the upper 7K?
Yeah, well, it's funny you brought that up because I was about to say everything you said about your other guy there, which was Doug, was you could almost say it for Smalley. Two top nines in his last 3, another made cut, a 10th here last year, and then you go and bring him up. So I think that's part of the thought process. Aaron Rye, obviously everyone's going to love. I bet him this morning at 75-1, coming in off a 3rd, a 9th, and a 24th. Won here 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, I guess now, 35th, then a miscut. So he's right there. That makes sense. Rasmus Hojgaard, he won last week. So I'm not saying to go there. I'm just saying it's interesting. And then he had a top 10 here last year as well. But Lucas Herbert is another guy I think is going to pop for people. And 15th at his most recent outing, 2 4th places here in the last 3 years. I can see that. But this is
short game, links.
Yeah. So this is the only thing I'll say. Going back to my thoughts earlier, if you're going to have so many of these guys that you can compare to, but that's where I think you got to look at the roster construction. I think really easily with Smalley, Rye, Herbert. I already heard a lot of love for Thigala. People that can't believe Gary Woodland is 7,600. Looks to me like 7,600 to 7,900 is that hub this week where, you know what I mean? You got Adam Scott, Aberg, Thomas, that maybe Thomas gets some love. Let's say he does. But of that, there's guys in the 8K range that won't get as much. There's plenty of guys from 7,400 down that we're about to get into where they can't all get the love. And that's like that lineup our listener league winner made last week. So you can make a case for all those guys instead of having to make hard and fast picks on a first look show just to say, I like them, but and play them, but it's all how you play them. That's where you have to be careful, because that's the popular build for sure, Kenny. You can just see it already. Woodland, by the way, pops quite a bit as well. Even Harmon, some too there. So it's like Woodland, Harmon, Thigala, Herbert, Rye, and even Smalley. That whole range, people can play 2 or 3 of them, no problem. I could just look to get different and go to a lot of these guys 7,500 and below. What's your thoughts down here?
Down below, Moronk at 7,300, good win player. That's someone to look at down here. Brandon Wu is another guy that I like. He gets a lot of DraftKings points. He's really good at par threes as well. So I like Brandon Wu is a cheaper type option. And then, other guys that I might be playing, maybe Bobby Mack. He's been struggling a little bit, but showed a little bit last week. I think he had the lead in the final round in wherever the hell they wherever the hell they played that event last week. Linksy type of guy. This could suit him. I don't know how much ownership he's going to gather, so I like him as well. What about you?
Yeah, he sometimes does get a little bit popular, so it is what it is, but it's not, I wouldn't fade him because that he's a guy I actually bet him this week at 90-1. You go back and look, you talked about coming off the 4th, before that an 18th and 39th, 14th and 18th here, 2 of the last 3 years. We've seen him. This is not a major. It's a tune-up for the final major of the year, but we've seen him in majors, different styles, not just the Open, where he's shown up in strong fields at tough courses. Now we're talking about one in his homeland in Scotland. So I think that it's a spot you could definitely play Bobby Mack. I like him here. Cam Davis, Moronk, who else? Bezadenhout. People been on him and off him. He hasn't done nothing lately, but 16th here last year. I think this would be a better fit and a setup. I know some people wanted to play him the opposite, but I don't mind that. Noren is a guy. Jordan Smith is another guy, plays over in the Euro Tour, that you could see come out here and show up. Patty the Batty, Padraig Harrington. People will make fun of this pick, but man, he always finds his way around these courses. And at the same time, hitting it longer than ever. So you can go back to him, here at 7,100 now. To my point though, Kenny, none of these guys to me can pick up much steam when you've got all the guys in the upper 7K range. So that's why I, mentioned a few more here. Even Alexander Bjork, he's coming in off 6th, 9th, 8th, and 4th, almost in the playoff last week in the same Himmerland tournament you just talked about in Denmark, made in Himmerland. And the last 3 years here, 19th, 26th, and 42. Made cuts, and 19th in the original year. 60, like the guy's been fine. Or sorry, no, 62nd that year, but still 19th, 26th, and 42nd here the last 3 years. He's been fine. He's coming in playing good golf. Nobody's going to go there. Like it'll be a small percentage that gets there, especially when you have Cam Davis, Moronk, all these guys. So I just think these are the guys you have to look for this week. And this construction also works, Kenny, because back to my previous point, when you go Hatton, Fleetwood, Rye, so on, so like basically you go your cash lineup, it looks good. Take out Homa for a second and go Hatton, Fleetwood, Smalley, Gim, Rye. I don't even know where that lands, but my point is it's going to look pretty good on paper. And it makes sense, and they have good history, and they're good on links and all that. My point is, it's also going to be a popular ownership overall, as across the whole use of it, total ownership, I should say. And then on top of it, it's going to be a common type build, where when people think they're going off the guys at the top, and that's unique, but you're still landing on all the same areas and all the same chalk, so it's not really a unique build. So I really do like getting down in this range. Kitayama, I think you mentioned him, but he was another guy at 7,400. So lots of guys, 7,400 to 7K. That you can go to. If you're a real sicko, do you go back to Patrick Rogers? Because that'll be the ultimate flop leg. He was 24% in the Fantasy Golf World Championship round 2 last week, even similar or higher in some of the high stakes stuff. Would you go back to him at 7,000 even, or no? Can't do it.
No, I'm not thinking about him at that price. There's a couple. I do like your Kitayama call, runner up here last year. Dude is super boom bust. He's going to make the cut of top 10 this bitch. And at 7,400, you take that. You know what I'm saying? You take that risk. I like that play. Now, if you're going down around who you're talking about in the 7K range, maybe Garrick Higo played decent last week. Is someone that you can look at. But I like the guys, some guys in this high 6K range, like Thurston Lawrence Howell III. I'm a fan of his. Again, another guy who knows how to play these type of courses. He won a couple of weeks ago. Matthew Pavon might be the final guy in my cash lineup. 14 to 17 made cuts on the European Tour this past year. He's made his last 3 cuts at this event, including a 12th place a couple of years ago. So I do like Pavon. Matthew Southgate is another links style type guy who really performs well in links type courses. Himberlin last week, links E, links S, finished top 10 there. So I like him. Who do you like in the 6K range?
No, not very much. And that's,
not much.
the challenge I have. Like I
Those
said,
are the 3 that I'm looking at.
I listed all those guys in the low 7s for that reason. And even some others I didn't, that I could take some chances on. Like if you want to play JT Poston and hope he found something last week and just find his way around. I know he hasn't been to this course or seen it, but just to mention it, like there is other guys in that range, but going into the 6K range, man, you're taking a lot of risk. Matt Wallace was one. You mentioned Matthew Southgate, who I was also with you on, a guy we bet all the time. Me and Baroff, first round leader, talked about that. We bet him last week. I think he ended up finishing the last 3 rounds really solid, just not in the actual first round where we bet him. So you mentioned Thirsty Lawrence. I'm sure Mayo will talk about him this week, a guy that actually wins. I think he's got 4 wins on the DP World Tour and mixing the 2 tours, the names. So going down here, 1 or 2 guys, maybe more, will pop out by the end of the week, but I could see plugging them into your lineups and hoping that it works out. But like you said, you do have to know the volatility you're taking on Romain. This is the guy that I was trying to mess around with Pat last week, Langesk. He finished 8th 2 weeks ago, has a 3rd and a 44th here. He's a guy that I think people would take a chance on. Matt Wallace, who I told you I liked, 14th, 30th, and 26th before the miscut. You mentioned Pavon. I'm just looking at some guys with some history. Guido, boom bust, but coming in off a 10th, 28th, and then the 58th when we liked him. But he's got a 28th and a 35th, 2 of his last 4 years here. Southgate, I already talked about the 9th and the 26th. A lot of have they seen it before and what have they done lately? Jamie Donaldson, I'll have to ask Baroff about him, but 26th and 39th, 2 times out, and he has a 9th and a 6th here. Could be somebody that you look at. After that, man, I just don't see a lot, and I think you're taking on a lot of that risk once you go down here. So there, unless it makes everything work for you and you feel good about it, there's not a lot that I see down here that I love.
Yeah, I agree. The Jamie Donaldson is sort of a good call. I can get on board with him probably being like my cheapest guy that I play this week, more than likely. All right, so let's get the bets. I'll go first. I got Hatton 22-1. I got Wyndham Clark 8 places each way, 40-1. Smalley 66-1 with 8 places each way, and Kitayama 90-1, 8 places each way.
Okay, I got some bets too. I was just trying to figure out who the last guy. Oh, Samuja was the other guy I was looking at. He came 4th last week, was almost in the mix, has a 9th and a 20th here. And then the other guy that we bet a lot, I'll have to ask him too, but like Connor Simey, 14th and 68th. He's got 4 made cuts here. 3 made cuts here, all 3 times that he played it. So just looking at it from that perspective, you want to go to these guys, like it's taking on a lot of risk. I don't think I'll be very heavy down in this range. For me, Kenny, JT, 40-1 with 8 places. Had to take that one. If he's going to show up, it gets me a top 8. He's got a 9th and a 10th here, 2 of the last 3 years. He's got to get tired of watching these other guys, even his boy Ricky, getting the job done now, people making fun of him over at the Wimbledon event, all these things. We've seen, look, he'll come with ownership. I don't think people are going to just get away from him when he's 8,300. But my point being, Cam Young had ownership last week when he probably shouldn't have, still was in the mix. Like you said, after that front 9 and that shot on 9 to 2 feet, you thought the guy was in it. He ended up not being, but the point being 8,300 also makes this a lot different. Morikawa, also expensive, 10-4 the week before, out of nowhere shows up and finally has it. JT, you're not paying very much to find out, but for the bet with 8 places at 40, I got no problem with it. So JT, 40, all these with 8 places. Lucas Herbert, 75. Aaron Rye, 75. Alex Smalley, 90. Bobby Mack, 90. And Noren, 140. We'll round it out.
1-0 Hatton.
Yeah, if you got him. Do you have him?
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Yeah, I don't have any of those guys. The guy I've got is Fitz. So I'm probably going to use
I have Fitz too.
Fitzpatrick. And he's got some ownership that people can get there, but I'm just playing. I'm in like 370th or something. So I'm just playing what I got that I think is good. 2nd and 6th here the last 2 years. 14th the year they kicked it off here. He hasn't been bad lately. 3 top 20s before his 49th. So hoping that Fitz can find his way. And even on, in DFS, 9,800. squeeze between the 10K range and then Hatton, Fowler, Fleetwood, Spieth, Lowry, etc., I think he's at least going to be kept in check. So I do like Fitzpatrick this week at 9,800.
All right, that sounds good. You can find me on Twitter at KendoVT. You can find my article on gupscorner.com. Use promo code Kenny. Save yourself 30% on a membership.
You can find me on Twitter at Totag and Tambo. The tidbits will be out this week when they're out, and in the good way. Either they come out early like Tuesday night because it starts on Wednesday and I just want to get them out of the way, or they'll be out as normal on Wednesday, but that's how they always are. You got to follow me on Twitter at Totag and Tambo. They'll be there, not on Threads, if anyone was wondering. So you can check me out on Twitter. And then, of course, shipitnation.com. We will have the free show tomorrow on our YouTube, youtube.com/@shipitnation. Myself and Hoop, 3 p.m. Eastern, breaking it all down a little bit further once we have the initial ownership projections and see some more of the roster construction stuff and all that. But we'll have all our stuff over at the site there, shipitnation.com.
All right, guys, morning golf across the pond. You got to love it. Let's win some motherfucking money. Degen Nation.
I've been getting dirty money, Jordan Belfort.